He turned to Suthrim. "I'm getting out of this cursed rain. When they reach the gate, send word to me. If they choose to attack, I'll trust you can hold them off." Suthrim grinned. "I'll call for help, Lord, if there's a danger of them overrunning us." Thorgrim climbed down from the wall and crossed the plank road to his hall. He could feel the effects of the fight in his arms, in various bruises, in the laceration in his side which had not been attended to. No one seemed to think the brawl had been more than an outbreak of the spontaneous violence to which bored, half-drunk, frustrated men who lived lives of violence, were prone. But Thorgrim could not shake the image of Kiashtan making his bold attack, sword and axe in hand, mail gleaming dull in the rain, his chief men surrounding him. The fire inside the hall was roaring, and the relief was immediate as he pushed through the heavy oak door. He reached up to undo the cloak which he had somewhat pointlessly donned, but his slave, a young Irishman named Shaun, was there in an instant. Shaun had been wounded and left behind in the Irish attack on Vik-lo the previous year. He was not the smartest lad, which was why he had not yet contrived to escape, a thing that should have been fairly easy to do, but he served Thorgrim tolerably well. Shaun took Thorgrim's cloak and set it aside, then took the sword and belt that Thorgrim handed him. Thorgrim did not bother to tell Shaun to dry and oil Irontooth, because Shaun knew what to do without being told. Shaun had gained considerable experience in dealing with rain-soaked gear. He met Thorgrim's eyes and gestured to a dry tunic and leggings that were laid out on a bench near the fire. They had no language in common, which made things awkward at first. When necessary, Harald, who had all but mastered the Irish tongue, translated Thorgrim's commands. But now that was rarely needed. Shaun had learned to anticipate Thorgrim's orders, had come to understand his habits. Thorgrim, in turn, treated Shaun decently, did not beat him or starve him, as some did their slaves, and allowed him to sleep on straw in a corner of the hall. With Shaun's help, Thorgrim stripped off his wet clothing, as wet as if he had leapt into the sea. Shaun sucked in his breath as he saw the bloody wound on Thorgrim's side, the sound a bit more dramatic than was called for, Thorgrim felt. "Agnar," Thorgrim called, "would you please bind this up?" he said, pointing to his side. "I would wish to have it secured before our Irish friends arrive." Agnar stood, took a cursory look at the wound, and then found some bandages and bound them around Thorgrim's side. He did the work quickly and skillfully, and Thorgrim was grateful for that. If the newcomers were the men he thought they were, he did not wish them to know the Norsemen had come close to the point of killing one another. Wound bandaged, Thorgrim dried himself and pulled the new clothes on, which were blessedly warm. It was a luxury to have a shift of clothes, a luxury that Thorgrim had not known since leaving his farm in East Agder. The new garments had belonged to Fasti Magnusson, one of the former leaders of Vik-lo, who had been killed by the Irish before Thorgrim arrived at the Longport. It was Fasti's hall which Bersi now occupied, but Thorgrim had laid claim to the clothes, which fit him admirably. Most of the houseguard were back and seated in the same places they had been before they turned out for the disturbance by the river. The windows were shuttered against the storm, and the only light in the hall came from the great fire in the hearth, which made for brilliant illumination within a dozen feet of the blaze, and increasing dark and shadow in the farther reaches of the big room. Gusts of wind and rain hammered the building, and blew smoke back through the smoke holes in the roof, until it swirled around above the men's heads. As Thorgrim shifted clothing, Harald stood a few feet away, looking for an opportunity to be helpful. "Did you see the riders, father?" he asked, taking the wet clothes from Shaun. "Are they many?" "A dozen, perhaps, if I don't miss my guess. It's Kevin Mocklugate," Harald offered. Thorgrim struggled with the odd Irish names, but Harald seemed able to pronounce them like a native, if Thorgrim was any judge, which of course he was not. "Yes, Kevin Mocklugate," Thorgrim repeated, mangling the pronunciation once again. "Him and his guard." Thorgrim was not worried about the possibility of being wrong in front of Harald. They were father and son, and after more than 2 years of raiding and voyaging in each other's company, there was nothing Harald did not know about him, the good and the bad, the strength and the weakness. And still, Harald seemed to view him at times as some character from the old stories of the gods, some denizen of the Asgardian realm. Thorgrim was content to leave that impression intact, and he knew that the occasion